Hello everyone, I am Mr. Sunil Bhakre, a CBSE COE Master Trainer and Resource Person, as well as also I am a Resource Person and Master Trainer for Competency-Based Education, which is a recently launched program by CBSE, British Council and Cambridge. Today we are going to discuss about very important topic, that is growth and development. Uh, as a teacher, we should be very much aware about these two parts, that is growth and development. As long as you do not understand the importance of these two terms, that is growth and development, we will not able to interact with the children in that particular way. We will not able to impart the education. We will not able to decide the objectives and earn the outcomes of it. So let's see today in details about the two topics, that is growth and development in the child. Okay. So let's discuss today this main topic, that is growth and development that takes place in each and every child through the life cycle, and we will able to see and differentiate between the two terms, as well as understand importance and its connection relation with the teaching learning pedagogy, teaching learning methodology. So here you can see one slide, and here you're able to predict that there are different stages of life are shown here, right from the early childhood, that is a kid, up to a well-grown adolescent child, we will able to see. And all the faces you'll find, these are like a smiling faces. Now the two terms which we are going to discuss today are growth and development. Actually, most of the time we feel that these are the similar terms, these are the same term. Usually they are used in a very common way. So many times there is no differentiation realized in between these two terms, but today we'll understand exactly what are these two terms. Now, when we come to this first part, that is growth. Now, growth is a very common type of property, or you can say a kind of feature of a living being. That is change in the physical appearance of that organism, or here we will specify it as a child. So, changes in the physical appearance of the child, which indicates an increase in the size of the organs or body, we can see, with the increase of the age and the strength of the body. So this is very well defined, that what is a growth. So these are nothing but the physical appearance changes, that permanent changes that takes place in the body, in the organs or the size of the body, along with the age and the strength of the body. But it is also having a limit, that at certain age, as we know, that at the age of 18, 19 somewhere, the growth of that organism or growth of the human being stops. Now let's move to the next term. What is development and what is child development? Now, development is nothing but the change in the cognitive ability of the individual. Now, growth was like a physical, which was seen, which was appearing, and which was recognized. But development is something different. This is nothing but the changes that takes place in the cognitive abilities of that individual. And now let's move to the third term, that is child development. What is exactly child development? These are the sequence of changes that occurs in the child right from the birth to the beginning of the adulthood, in aspect of the physical, lingual, psychological and emotional. So these are all the changes together that is taking place, that is in a sequential way. That is important. In a sequential way, all these changes takes place in the body of the child, as well as in the cognitive abilities developed, and total this thing is in the form of the physical changes, lingual changes and physiological as well as emotional changes. All these together, holistic type of changes that takes place, is nothing but called as the child development. So here we have differentiated three terms. What is growth, which is the physical change, size, shape of the body; development in the cognitive abilities, that is the development; and the child development, which is in the form of physical, lingual, then psychological and emotional. Now here again you will find some stages are shown here, and here we can easily differentiate that what kind of activities goes on at stage number 1, 2, 3, 4 and all. So we can easily differentiate what are the different things going on here. Now what does the child development include? Now we say that there is a development in the child, or the child develops, means exactly what happens, that we are going to say. The development of a child is the combination of skills functioning together in the form of, first is cognition. Cognition is nothing but it is the ability to learn and solve the problem. When the child is able to solve the problem, when the child is able to learn something, that kind of change, that kind of development called as the cognitive development. So cognitive development is nothing but the ability to learn and solve the problem. The child will be able to solve the problem. This we should know. At what stage, what happens? At what stage, what kind of development takes place? Growth will take place automatically. It is a natural process. But development is a kind of a sequential process, and it is having a recognized step of steps or specific step that take place. Next, social and emotional development. In the same way as like of cognition, social and emotional development of the child also takes place. It is nothing but the ability to interact with other people. How the child will interact with the family members, how the child will interact with the classmates, how the child will interact with the elders, teachers, and how the child will able to deal, interact with the society. So ability to interact with others or being social. When the child becomes social, child understands how to deal with others. Others in the sense other than the family member. The ability to express what they feel, whatever there are their feelings are there. These feelings should be expressed as well as achieve self-control. Child should able to gain. Child should able to achieve self-control, and that is called as the social and emotional development. And this step is thought to be very useful, very important, and very essential. During this step, the real development of the child should take place in a right way. Then and then only there is a kind of change in behavior. The automatic objective and we can say outcome of education is the change in behavior. That all takes place here exactly. Now language and speech. In this stage there is ability to understand and communicate with others. The child should be able to communicate with others. The child should be able to express his feelings, her feelings with others, share the feelings with each other, understand the feelings of others. That is called as the language and speech. This is also very important part that takes place during the development. And next is the physical and sensory skill. The ability to perform the physical function, that is helping the organs. With the help of the organs, whatever functions are performed by the child with a proper coordination, not only performing but with the proper coordination of sensory organ, using all the five senses. When the child is able to do certain physical activities or sensory skills are developed, this stage is called as the child development. So in education, in teaching learning, in instructional methodology, in pedagogy, the teacher has to know all these things. And accordingly, the teacher has to plan their lesson, teacher has to set the objective, teacher has to set the outcomes for the child, and this can be achieved by with the correlation of all these things. So this is very important. That is what the child development exactly includes. These are the four main things. Now, why is child development inherently essential in teaching? What is the relation between the teaching and child development? Here, child development is highly influenced by the environmental factors of the child as well as his learning capacity. Every child has a different learning capacity. Every child has a different surrounding or a different environmental factor. All the environmental factors have any kind of influence of the on the child, and during the development of the child, these environmental factors are affecting one side, and the learning capacity, the own capacity of the child is something different. Every child has a different learning capacity. So all these matter. So while planning the teaching learning, the teacher should know from what kind of environment the child is coming, what is the learning capacity of the child, and exactly how the teaching learning can take place. This has to be defined, designed by the uh, teacher. So very important part. Next is child development is directly associated with the teaching. Third is the help. This helps the teacher to understand whether the child's level of understanding or ability of grasping the knowledge. Every child has a different level of understanding, different level of grasping the knowledge. So accordingly, we will have to plan out. Accordingly, we have to frame, and accordingly, we have to decide the strategy of teaching learning. So child development is directly associated with the teaching, and this is also related to the understanding, ability, and grasping of knowledge. Next is ability to analyze the context. The child has a different ability to analyze the context. Whatever certain things that is happening around the child has the ability to analyze it. But different children have the different ability to analyze. Not that everyone will have equal ability to analyze the context. Fifth is his ability to successfully perform the task, both cognitive and physical. The child performs two things, two types of activities. First is the cognitive and second is the physical. Physicals mean that is the motor development, what we call it as, and cognitive is related to the brain, related to the thinking, related to all other that is takes place in the in short we can call it as one is the software and one is the hardware, and this is the combination of the two, that is the cognitive and physical. That is the fifth one. Sixth is most accurate evaluation of a student. From this, the teacher should be able to accurately evaluate the child, what exactly the child has earned, or what exactly the outcome is there from the child. That is also very important. Seventh is determination of child's larger role and responsibility and guide them towards their best. As a teacher, our role is not only teaching, our role is as a parent, as a guide, as a facilitator, and many more other roles we have to play, as a counselor also. So the teacher has to guide the child in a larger proportion or responsibilities, and the guidance or the kind of directions given are found to be very important in the development or in the role that is played by the child in their day to day. Here we can see one activity shown, that what all the teacher can guide if such kind of activity is there. The child should be able to question himself, the child should be able to analyze, the child should be able to evaluate, the child should be able to understand, the child should be able to judge, the child should be able to think, and the child should be able to create. The ultimate goal from all these things will be creation. So as a teacher, we have to help them to understand, to remember, to evaluate, to judge, to analyze, and to create. These are the main important things that as a teacher we have to do it. Now, what is education psychology, or what is educational psychology? Now, educational psychology is a very broad term, as we all know, but this term includes so many other minute things, and that all we are going to see. First is a study of how children learn. Educational psychology defines the how the children will learn, how a child will learn. That is very important. So as a teacher, we should know that when we are going to teach a topic, when a topic is there, how we teach, how the child will learn, how the child will feel facilitating in learning. That is very important. Second is careful analysis of students' outcome. Now, every teaching has objectives, every teaching has outcomes. So, as a teacher, we should carefully analyze the outcomes of that child. And nowadays, CBSE, NEP, or educational psychology stress more on the outcomes. Very important part is the outcome. That's why NEP is bringing us out from the rote learning or traditional teaching to the outcome-based teaching learning. Third is instructional process involved in learning. Instructional process is nothing but the teaching process. So this teaching process also should be molded in the way the child learns. In short, it is called as the child-centered learning. Instructional method should not be according to the teacher's convenience, but the child's convenience. So instructional process involved in learning. Next is observation of individual differences in learning. Every child has a different capacity or different way of learning, different style of learning, we can call it as. So the teacher should know, or teacher should observe as an individual, that what are the differences in learning, what are the different styles in learning with every child, and how we should do the instructional methodology. Next is the possibility or recognition of gifted learner, as well as the learning disability that may occur in a child. Now, generally, there are mainly, broadly, there are two types of children. One are gifted children that need very less teaching. They usually understand it very easily. They gain it very fast. They grasp it very fast. But there are some children which have some disabilities, problems to understand, problems to gain the knowledge, earn the skills, and there we have to make some kind of proper planning so that every child will be equally benefited. That is very important as a teacher. Now, sixth, study and application of disciplines such as development behavior and cognitive psychology. Now here, as a teacher, we have to study very clearly, very carefully the application of the disciplines like developmental behavior and cognitive psychology, because the ultimate goal of teaching learning is the outcomes, and outcomes are in the form of cognitive, behavior, and developmental. So we have to keep in mind how these three can be achieved by our proper planning and with the help of the students in the form of a proper way of imparting the knowledge or imparting the instructions or teaching learning, we call it in a very simple language. And the seventh is development. What kind of development? Emotional, social, and cognitive development of the child, and that requires the successful learning. So there should be emotional development, there should be social development, and there should be cognitive development in the child. Then and then the motive of teaching learning is satisfied, and this all is enveloped inside the term that is educational psychology. Now, what does educational psychology includes? Exactly what is included in educational psychology? The educational technology, the tech resources, the teaching resources suitable for education. So every educational uh, technology is a special type of technology. Every point or every topic needs a different type of educational technology. So suitable technology has to be selected by the teacher according to the convenience. Curriculum development. Now, creative curriculum for optimizing the learning. The learning can be optimized by creative curriculum. Now, what do you mean of creative curriculum? The curriculum where there is some kind of creativity. That is, in short, there should be a kind of scope for physical development, psychological development, or emotional development, or thinking development, or social development. All the development can come out. And similarly, we can call it as activity-based learning or experiential learning. All these kind of curriculum should be developed, should be imparted. Next is instructional design. Learning material that are designed in a creative and innovative way yet stands as informative. Means whatever information you are giving, whatever knowledge you are imparting, whatever teaching learning you are doing, that should be very innovative and creative. Not only for teaching, it should be creative, but for the children also to do something creative. Output should be creative and it should be interesting one. As long as the teaching learning or instructional methodology design is not attractive, not very interesting, not joyful, child will not learn. So should become very interesting and influencing. Next is organizational learning, the learning attitude in organizational setting. Now, see, all the children learn in a peer way, in a group, or in a kind of team. There is team learning. So in all this, you'll find that the learning attitude should be organized. There should be collaborative learning. The child should be able to cooperate, collaborate with others, and there should be collaboration and cooperation among the children, among the teacher and the children, among the topic and subject and the children. So everywhere it should be well organized. So organizational learning has to take place. Next is special education. The special education is the special instruction based on the requirement of the student. Now here special education doesn't mean the education only for the special need children or the disabled children or PWD children, but every child has some special needs for learning because they do not have equal level or equal capacity of learning. Different children have different learning styles, different capacities, and different potentials. So thinking all this, the teacher should decide it in such a way that the need, special need of every child is fulfilled in on a common platform. That is very important. Next is gifted learner, supporting students recognized as gifted. Now, gifted children usually do not need much more things from the teacher. They learn very fast, they grasp very fast, they gain very fast. But these students need some extra things, higher level thinking, higher level question. That is hot speak call it as. So higher level thinking type of questions should be posed before them. Their thinking should be enhanced or ignited so that there can be more higher level thinking in them. So both we have to balance the special need also and the gifted one also. This is very important. Now establishing the relation between educational psychology and teaching. Up till now we have seen what is educational psychology, and now we are going to see the next term, teaching, and how to establish the relation between the educational psychology and teaching. Necessary to establish connection between educational psychology and teaching process. These are totally interrelated procedures. As long as we do not know what is the educational psychology, teaching process is not successful or teaching process is without outcomes. It is just a formal teaching learning, that is collecting the information, what rather not knowledge, information from the textbooks and pouring it on the children, and the children also just write down some notes, and that is the teaching learning. This is the traditional method, this is the rote learning method, this is the outdated method. So we should first know what is educational psychology and teaching process, and both should have interrelation between them. Then there can be only outcome based teaching learning procedures. Next is teaching is not constricted to sharing of knowledge and is rather complex phenomenon than it is usually appears. Means in traditional way, the teaching learning is nothing but just sharing the knowledge, collecting the knowledge from the textbook, just pouring it on the children, just I said. And here there is no creativity, there is no innovation, there is no experiential learning, there is no any kind of integration of any activities, there is no skill development. So this kind of teaching learning has no meaning. This is just a traditional, or this is just a rote teaching learning method which has no outcomes. Next is application of educational psychology. What are educational psychology we have seen up till now? This is the various developmental stages. What are the needs? What is educational psychology? The educational psychology should be implemented, integrated in teaching. Then and then there can be proper outcome based teaching learning, and exact outcome can be obtained. Next, a chance to aid the students in which ever they require. Means as a teacher, we have to provide some aid to the students, whatever, wherever or whatever is required in teaching learning. That is, in short, we can call it as facilitating the learning procedure. Teacher is there to facilitate the learning process, not only instruct, not only teach, but facilitate the learning. Because every child has a different ability, different capacity of learning, some kind of aid should be provided by the teacher to the student so that their learning becomes facilitating, joyful, and outcome based. Next, fifth one is identify the learning difficulties faced by the student. We go in the class, we teach, and we feel that I taught everything. But what the children have earned, what the children have learned, that is very important. So teachers should be able to identify the difficulties that are faced by the students on their face, while teaching on their face all the difficulties, whether the child has solved it, whether the child has gained it, whether the child has earned it, we can understand from their face. So difficulties faced by the student can be seen on their face, very important. And accordingly, we have to make changes in our teaching methodology, teaching pedagogies, or the teaching aid. Teaching methodologies has to be molded, and various teaching aids should be used. Various methodologies can be that's blended together to make it more facilitating and solve the problem of the children in understanding. Now the sixth one is developmental aspects of the student that are particularly related to their learning process. Means development aspects of the students that should be related to the learning process. Means every child has a developmental aspects, and this has to be correlated with the learning procedure. And when it is correlated with the learning processes, then there is a kind of proper outcome, proper output, and there is a kind of proper understanding and interrelation in the teaching learning methodology. Thank you very much. I hope you must have liked the video, and